Is one day 3 rookie in for a massive workload? Do you need to find a replacement for one questionable AFC signal caller? And are you better off going with youth or experience at the tight end position this weekend? Plus, the 5th place overall team in the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, Ali Yousefi, hops aboard to break down Courtland Sutton's startability on Sunday, how he's handling the Minnesota Vikings with a brand new, old quarterback, and much more. We've got a great show for you this evening. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you and greetings and salutations to all of you Bulkaholics and Ferrelliacs tuning in tonight. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we'll discuss whether one stud quarterback actually needs to be on your bench in week 9, if you can finally trust one rookie rusher, and more before Ali Yousefi is going to join us, the 5th place team manager in the FFPC Big Gorilla. Also has 4 teams in the top 100 in the Big Gorilla as well. He joins us for discussions on David Montgomery, Jacoby Brissett, and much more. If you want to connect with us on X, you can do so at HSFF at Eric Balkman. Always learn more about Ferrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments for us, let us know now, because we'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, and emails in our fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend, Bryce, and of course, our producer and mutual friend, Rob. FFPC Weekly Challenge Thursday edition is closed out, but the Sunday edition lives on. myffpc.com. You still have time to play the Sunday edition in week 9. There's no draft. There's no salary cap. You just pick 10 or 12 players, depending upon if you want to play with kickers and defenses or not, and you can win up to $2,500. 10, 30, and 100 team contests, only one player per NFL team. myffpc.com is where to go for that. That's myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, and share it with your friends, share it with your enemies. Get notified each and every time we go live, which is 3 times during the NFL season. RotoViz High Stakes Slowdown, 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights. The FFPC Insider Access show, 7 p.m. on Thursday nights, and this show each and every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Could not do this show without the co-host with the most, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. KFFSC.com is where to go to check out his contest, and you could hear what he has to say about all his FFPC teams and high stakes fantasy football right now. Please welcome in my good friend, Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, good evening. Welcome.
Hey.
And Oinker says hello as well.
Yeah, we got Oinker. We got gray-headed Oinker, senior Oinker down here.
Oinker,
and senior Oinker. You know, Balky, my beloved Chadwick Wild singing the line, "No one ever told me what a man was." I'll tell you what what it takes to be a man. No complaining about injuries in fantasy football. It is time for everyone to stop their sobbing and put together their best roster. And we're going to tell them how to do that. Our guest last week came in strong. Mm-hmm. And he was fantastic. And you've got another terrific guest lined up tonight. But we came in strong with some advice that helped get you through what'd you call that? Bimageddon?
I've heard Bimageddon, the Bipocalypse, Bi-NATO, all of them. They all make sense. I want to, as long as you're bringing up last week, James Hicks chiming in tonight. Happy Halloween, and happy Halloween to everybody who celebrates as well. Can we top last week's show? Sleepover, kids crashing the show, Oinkers, the weekend starts now with Balky and Ferrell. Thanks so much, James. I will say this. While we had one kid sleep over last week, we got 2 kids sleeping over tonight. It is my daughter's friends. They're in the other room right now and are not allowed to come on the air. No, get back by your friends.
I just want to say hi.
Say hi real quick. That's it. You can say hello. Say hi to Ferrell and everybody.
Happy Halloween, darling.
There you go.
Yeah,
say
I'm
happy
with
Halloween. No, say happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
There you go. Get out of here. Go by your friends.
OMG is out.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
I love how she drops out of the suit.
Yeah.
I love that bug.
She understands how a camera works for sure.
This is fantastic.
May or may not be a good thing. I'm not really sure. So here's the thing. I hate starting off on a bad note, but this Travis Hunter news totally caught me off guard today. According to Adam Schefter later this afternoon, initial testing shows that his ACL is intact. For those of you who missed it, earlier today, he was placed on injured reserve. He's going to be out at least the next 4 weeks. If you combine his bye week last week, that's 5 consecutive weeks without any Travis Hunter. Now, they're going to do some more testing over the weekend to find out how serious the injury is, the extent of the injury. And as of right now, I'm hopeful that he returns this season, but that's far from a given at this point right now. I'm keeping him on my roster. There's no question you cannot cut him at this point. I will say, as far as the here and now, Ferrell, Brian Thomas gets taken off the injury report, so he's going to be good to go this week. You think about guys like Parker Washington on this squad as well, De'Ami Brown, who I believe is going to play this week. Jacksonville has a pretty good matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders. Your thoughts on starting any Jaguars receiver not named Brian Thomas this weekend?
Well, let's talk about Brian Thomas too, because the Brian Thomas stat line has not been impressive, Bucky. And you know, if we have Brian Thomas owners, I might give them the exemption to go ahead and sob a little bit. It's been a tough year, but this is the year. This is his breakout game. If you don't get if you don't get the breakout game from here, I will remind you could have had Pittman, and I'll also remind you that it could be basically over for you with this player contributing to your team. Now, you know, so I'm calling Brian Thomas 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 to 8 catches. I love De'Ami Brown in this game. He gets 4 or 5 catches. 4 or 5 targets a week. He'll get more against the Raiders. The Raiders, you would think coming out of the bye week, they will have some scheme to try to limit the players, the receivers' release points. But the skills that how tall is Thomas? 6'3"?
Roughly. I'll look that up.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown, 6 foot tall. Those are the kind of receivers that give them trouble. Physical, tall receivers. Parker Washington, I want to be with one of the outside receivers that have physical skills and can win the high point ball, because that's the guys that are successful week in, week out against the Raiders secondary.
So Brian Thomas, yes, for sure. Parker Washington, no. And then De'Ami Brown, maybe as a flex.
Well, there's so much. I wouldn't say no, but I would say with Brown, you're going to get better than what you've been used to. And with Brian Thomas, you're going to get what you deserved and what you thought you were getting when you drafted him. He's going to play like first-round draft pick. And if he can play like that once, he might just get you through the rest of the season playing like that.
I hope that the silver lining in all this is the return of the 2024 version of Brian Thomas, which may be wishful thinking at this point, Ferrell. But I'm hopeful that this clears the runway for him, because the narrative we heard was that Travis Hunter was going to be more involved in as the number one receiver and fulfilling that role for the remainder of the season. That's looking highly unlikely, because even if he comes back after 4 games, he will have missed a significant amount of development time that he would have needed to fulfill that role. And now we're not going to see that. I just hope he's okay and he's able to come back at the end of the season, which, again, as I said, far from a given right now.
Well, he's not okay for Sunday.
No, he's not. Get him out of your lineup for sure. Here's another guy you got to get out of your lineup. DeAndre Swift. He is actually not going to be playing this week for the Chicago Bears, which is too bad, because this was going to be a really good matchup for Swift this week. He was ruled out with a groin injury. Didn't even get a questionable tag today. He was already ruled out. So it's Kyle Monangai. We're looking at him against the Bengals run defense. I think that, I wish I had him in more leagues, just like any one of these running backs. I wish I had him in more leagues. I got him in a few, Ferrell. I can't imagine I'm going to bench him anywhere. I think this is a really good matchup with no Swift. Monangai was already creeping in on Swift's workload. I love him this week. I think that's this could be more than a 1 week thing for Monangai too. I think he's going to have a great week this week. And even if Swift is ready to go next week, based on what I think Monangai is going to happen, we're talking about maybe a true timeshare in Chicago. I'm really bullish on Monangai against Cincinnati this week.
And I think you were bullish on him throughout the spring and summer. Well, definitely the summer. I agree with you, Balky. He's a player that I love his running style. 5'8", 210 pounds. He's physical. He's the kind of guy that you love to root for. The only time he's had double-digit carries, he responded very well. That game against New Orleans, he averaged over 6 yards a carry. He found the end zone, I think. More of the same. He didn't catch many balls. He's not going to put Swift on the bench for very long. I'm not saying he can't catch them, but we haven't seen that yet. Maybe one or so a game.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
With the volume play that he is, maybe he gets more passes. But I see him coming out on passing downs, and that's not sustainable for big fantasy scoring, but he is a volume play for this weekend, so get him in your lineups.
Yeah, I think you're right. He doesn't completely ice Swift, even if he goes Rico Dowdle on this Bengals defense.
Only Rico can go Rico.
Only Rico can go Rico, absolutely. I think that the point I want to make too is if he does crush it this week, and I do believe he does, you start having to have a discussion about, even if Swift is ready to go next week, do I want to play Swift now that we know that this could be more of like a 60-40 timeshare based on what I think Monangai is going to do this week?
Okay.
Speaking of Rico Dowdle, Ferrell, Christmas has come early for Dowdle owners. Joe Person for The Athletic has reported that Dowdle is going to, quote, start and get the bulk of the carries against Green Bay in Week 9. Dave Canales on Monday talked about how they can't ignore how good Dowdle's been when he's gotten the football and how efficient he's been with it. Been with the football these last couple of weeks. Hubbard's still going to, quote, be part of the offense. But 60-40 split, 70-30 split, I think is probably what it's going to be closer to with Dowdle and Hubbard. I think that, Green Bay's got a really good rush defense, but they can be had for sure. Panthers are missing a couple of offensive linemen, which I think they've been missing them for a few weeks, and it really hasn't hampered Rico Dowdle's production at all. I think that Hubbard is probably a guy you're going to try to find a way to sit, and I think you got to find a way to flex out Dowdle, or perhaps he's even a top 20 running back for you this week where you put him in your running back 2 slot.
Dowdle belongs in my running back, in my backfield wherever I can get him. And you mentioned that, okay, you can't deny what you see in Carolina. Well, I'm glad they got it. They had all training camp plus a good free agency buy to get this player more action. Until the injury of Hubbard, they didn't do it. Dallas didn't appreciate the player despite gaining 1,000 yards last year. I've never seen statistically evidence of motivation to say, I'll show you. But this guy is still showing the league. Now, Green Bay is not he's in a tough matchup this weekend, I think. And so what we don't get in yards per carry perhaps will make up in volume. But I love him in the passing game. And if the coach really, really believes in him, they'll create some packages for him that'll try to get him even more involved. So, yes, Rico Dowdle is your guy. We said it all summer, and I guess we'll never get tired of reminding everybody. But when he finally got to play, we said Dowdle over everyone. And he goes out, he rushed for 200 yards.
He had some really good games for Dallas last year, and he's picked up when he's gotten the opportunity in Carolina this year. You get him in your lineups this week in week 4, in week 9, because I think he's in for a big game. Joe Flacco is officially listed as questionable for his game against the Bears. He has said everything that we've wanted to hear, maybe short of guaranteeing that he was going to play this week. The Bengals did sign Sean Clifford to their active roster today. So I think that there is still some question whether he's going to go or not. Jake Browning will get the start if Flacco can't go. The only thing I'll bring up here, two things I got to bring up. One is I know there's one KFFSC league I have where Joe Flacco is my only quarterback. I'm going to need to fix that before waivers process tomorrow. Can't take a 0 at the position. But even if Flacco can't go and Browning's in there, Ferrell, we're still playing Jamar Chase. What do you think about T. Higgins? If Flacco can't go this week and Jake Browning's back in there, do you break ties against T. Higgins this week against Chicago?
If you have a player, especially a slot receiver, that you think might get double-digit targets because of he's playing against a team that is weak at that is weak against that position, then you can make a case to T. Higgins out of your lineup. What you got to hope for, if you've got Cincinnati Bengal assets, is to understand that maybe Browning, with a couple weeks off, has come back into a different situation. He was shell-shocked, and this was good. It's been good to get him out of the lineup. Browning has been a successful quarterback in the league. Good stat lines in the past. I don't know what's going on with him in this season, but I would like to see you root for certain players. He's a blue-collar player. I would like to see him have, Balky, a game where you get no matter what happens with Flacco in the future of this season, this player can at least get the taste out of his mouth of what this year has done to him.
We have Ali Yousefi hanging out, ready to come aboard. I want to bring up one more comment before we get to Ali tonight, and that is the Mastradamus hanging out watching us on Facebook tonight. He says, how about Michael Pittman and Hunter Henry? In my draft I had with you guys, Ferrell had to leave before the draft started, but I heard Ferrell liked those two players. I grabbed both. I'm currently in first in that league. It was funny because one of the guys that replaced Ferrell didn't like when I took those two players. Tell that guy LOL. And I'm trying to remember who that was. That was
Browning. Browning replaced me, just like Browning. He was Browning.
Okay, well,
it was a Browning-ish performance.
You were in Appleton, I think, that night. In Appleton, Wisconsin, because you went to one of your acts and
trying to do three things at once. That's
exactly.
Good.
Yeah. And I think it might have been Aiden LaCory that came on after that, and was not. Listen, we if you've seen this show once, you know Ferrell is the president of the Michael Pittman fan club. And by the way, I might be VP of it this week at least.
Yes, you are.
I love Pittman this week for sure.
Bill Hollywood last week.
Hold on. Bill Hollywood chiming in. I can't sit Pittman. Tom Smith put Pittman in over Higgins this week.
Tom meant to, instead of the word this, Tom meant to type every. However, Tom's got a little thing going on with the carpal tunnel, and probably, he meant to type in
every week as opposed to this week. Well, listen, this guy that we're bringing on right now, Ferrell, has been near the top of the leaderboard almost every single week in the Big Gorilla. Pleased to bring him on tonight. He's a former 8-time FFPC League champion. He is in 5th place overall coming into week 9 in the FFPC Big Gorilla. Has 4 teams in the top 100 right now. Once again, a reminder, that competition is going to pay a $1 million grand prize. Please welcome into the program tonight, making his debut on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, Mr. Ali Yousefi. Ali, welcome in tonight, man.
Good afternoon, guys, or good evening, I should say. Thank you for having me on. Huge fan of both of you.
So you're on the left coast right now, over in California, right? So it's early evening there, right?
It is, yeah, about 7:20 here.
Ali, I've been accused my whole life of thinking 10 p.m. Eastern was just in the middle of the afternoon. People have been accusing that of me for a long time. So you're right.
Ali, we'll get to the fantasy football stuff in a second. Tell us, when you're not hanging out at the top of the leaderboard in the Big Gorilla, what are you doing for a living?
I'm actually an attorney here in the Bay Area, and so we do family law and personal injury. So most of my time is really invested in my business.
Oh, got it. Yeah. And
the business of fantasy football?
The business of fantasy football, because you're managing a bunch of teams, Ali, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely my secondary business.
What's your primary business?
I'm an attorney, actually.
Oh, I just heard that.
Yes, you did. Yeah, there's an echo.
All right. Well, Ali, what a wonderful name. We got a guy here from Louisville, a little bit famous for that. It's a pleasure to meet you here. 4 teams in the top 100. When did you draft them? How many did you draft total? And of these 4, did you know it when you were drafting them that they were going to be damn good?
Well, I think in terms of your first question, the way I try to strategize it was for the most of my teams was try to draft a quarterback and tight end later, try to get some value there, and take more running backs and wide receivers early on. And generally speaking, I've always found tight ends late in value in many drafts, even in the prior years. And same thing with quarterbacks. And so I kept on sticking with that. There's a few teams here and there, of course, I diversified and, took Lamar Jackson here and there. But for the most part, I do have late round quarterbacks and tight ends.
I like that.
And Ali, I want to make sure that this is typically not just this year. This is typically how you usually draft your FFPC teams, right? How you usually build them.
Exactly. Almost every season.
These tight ends? Who were some of them that were hanging around late? Because I didn't exercise that strategy. I was getting me some winning tight ends.
Well, you can get winning tight ends late too, Ferrell, for sure.
I was getting me some celebrated tight ends. Some Brock Bowers, some of those kind of cats. Who are your tight ends?
The biggest one is the one from the Packers. What's his last name?
Tucker Kraft. Yep.
I mean, he's had an amazing season. And then the Cowboys tight end, other than last week, he's had a great season as well. So I drafted those two,
except you and me, Ali.
And I'll tell you another one too, and maybe this guy gets more prevalent probably in the next couple of weeks when he comes off IR. A guy that was really good in a lot of your teams so far, Ali, Brenton Strange, who was the leading receiver for Jacksonville when he went down. You got him on a boatload of your teams. I think Kyle Pitts is a guy that you're heavily invested in this year who's having a nice season too. Zach Ertz, you can make the case that dude's been very, low drafted, but definitely outperforming his draft slot. These are all Cade Otton's another guy too. So I think that there is something to be said for this late tight end, and maybe that'll be the thing next year. I don't know how it's going to go, but certainly you've been able to find value at tight end late in the draft. Or later on in the draft, I should say. I want to ask you here something that Ferrell and I talked about at the top, and this was this Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard story. Dave Canales said earlier this week, in not so many words, that they can't ignore what Dowdle has done, and they're going to have to get him more opportunity. We have heard coaches say stuff like this before and then go ahead and do the opposite or not back up those words at all. Are you believing in what Canales said? Do you believe that we're going to see a bigger workload for Dowdle, a workload that is going to be larger than his teammate Chuba Hubbard?
I'm a huge Rico fan. I mean, I've been following him since Dallas, and this guy can catch, he can run. And people continue to doubt him. And one thing I think for the Panthers at this point is that he's on an expiring contract. So I feel like they're going to run him down. And although many people don't think they're going to trade either Hubbard or Rico, I personally think that they're going to trade Rico or Hubbard because they got a third round a good running back. I forgot his name, but he's a great
Trevor Etienne, right?
Exactly. And I think he can be a good backup running back. So I think they're going to put Rico on the show and potentially get some value back because he's putting up great numbers.
And the other thing, too, is Dowdle probably wants to be run into the ground, right? He's 27 years old. He probably feels he's got one more solid contract left in him. I'm sure he wants Carolina to give him all he can handle so he can pump up those numbers the way he couldn't in Dallas in 2024 with Ezekiel Elliott and all the nonsense that Dallas had going on there. So there's certainly something to be said of like the Panthers are leaning towards doing it. Us fantasy owners want him to do it. Rico Dowdle wants him to do it. Just give him the damn ball. And we'll be very excited about a heavy workload for Dowdle throughout the remainder of the season, Ferrell.
And the stats don't lie, because if you look, Dowdle has basically ran 9 times over 20 yards this season, where Hubbard's done it 0 times. On average, he's running 5.5 yards per carry. And then you got Hubbard's running about 3.5 yards per carry. So, I mean, the results are there, and he should be getting the bulk of the carries.
That's yards after contact per Dowdle, an impressive number when compared league-wide. I find fantasy football to be quite vexing, quite difficult. I don't sometimes want to go borrowing trouble and start looking at the defenders that my top-of-the-line players are going to be playing against. But you can't help but to look at Cortland Sutton's potential matchup this weekend. with Derek Stingley Jr. Do you spend a lot of time? How much? You have to assume some things. If the player goes in motion, does Stingley travel with them? You have to assume some things about how that matchup's going to play out. But do you look at world NFL class, top of the line defenders in selecting your receivers to employ, and generally and specifically, what do you think about Sutton versus Stingley this weekend?
I think that's going to be a great matchup, but I mean, I'm looking at what Vegas says. Vegas has this over under at 39.5, so they think this is going to be a low scoring game. And then you got Denver, who's got so much talent on the wide receiver end, and you got Franklin, you got Mims, you have the rookie, which I forgot his name.
For Denver. The rookie, Troy Franklin?
Bryant.
Oh, Pat Bryant. Yes.
And then you got Ingram, right, which is a very good tight end, I think. I mean, he just hasn't been utilized much, but they have so many options. And then they just had Harvey last week, who just had 2 or 3 touchdowns catching the ball. I see them spreading the ball around. And then you got Houston, who's second against the pass on defense. I think Sutton is a boomer bust, in my opinion. I'm sitting him in a lot of my leagues unless I don't have a choice. And I think he's going to have a hard time overall. And so will Nixon, I think.
One of the I just pulled this up here, and I'm trying to find out what book this is, and I don't see it, but I see his Sutton. This is his total for receiving yards is 57.5, receptions at 4.5. So they're basically projecting him for 4 or 5 catches and not to top 60 yards, which to me seems like what happens when the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, right?
Yeah.
Not either one of these guys is unstoppable or immovable, but Stingley, for what it's worth, as Derek Brown pointed this out on Fantasy Pros, he's given shadow coverage to Calvin Ridley, Jameson Williams, and Brian Thomas all this season. Will it continue again on Sunday with Cortland Sutton? Potentially. So I think we need to be prepared for that. I always say, Ali, I am a weak man. I am not going to be able to sit Cortland Sutton in my leagues. Now, maybe that's more of a commentary saying that I just don't have the receiver depth to do it, but he's still going to be in my lineup this week. And hopefully he gets a touchdown, because a touchdown can make everything right. It's that little dose of NyQuil that you need at night, right? That just makes you feel great. That's what a touchdown can do.
Now I can see, Balky, that, as you listen to some of the players that he's turned away from catches this year, Stingley may just have the perfect schedule of all corners.
That very well could be the case. It could be the case. This Detroit game this week is interesting against Minnesota, Ali. The David Montgomery aspect in your fantasy lineup, not yours, but maybe mine, has been lacking. I've flexed this guy out the last couple of weeks. He's kind of let me down. Is this a Montgomery week against the Vikings? And it seems like Gibbs is doing it all. Can Montgomery get back into the throes of 12, 13, 14, 15, something like that, fantasy points against this Vikings defense this week? Because with only 4 teams on bye, I think if you got a really good team, you could make the case that you might have some better options than Montgomery in week 9.
I love Montgomery this week for several reasons. Number one, you have Vegas that has this over under at 49, so they're expecting a high scoring game. And number two, they got Detroit as 10-point favorites, which tells me that they think there's going to be a blowout. And usually when Detroit is up by a lot of points, I see them running the ball and feeding Montgomery, and they try to, keep Gibbs a little bit on the sideline on those games. I see Detroit, catching an early lead because, the quarterback for Minnesota, McCarthy, I mean, he's coming back after not playing 5 games. I haven't seen him play consistently well ever. I think he's had 1 or 2 good games, but he's not showing me anything at this point for me to have confidence that he's going to just come back from an injury and do well. So I personally think that Montgomery's going to have a great week. I think he's going to have 1, if not 2 touchdowns, and I think Detroit's going to run away with it quick, and he's going to get the bulk of carries in the second half.
Makes me feel a lot better about Montgomery this week, Ferrell.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so we're predicting a blowout and Minnesota playing from the chase position. Here's a player that I've had a hard time getting a line on, and I've got him in Dynasty. I didn't take him in redraft, but he's in my and I might have to play him somewhere. Jordan Addison. What do you like about Jordan Addison, if anything? What do you see from him with McCarthy's return?
I love Addison because he has got a high ceiling, right? And he can have a big game for you. So that's the upside with him. The problem I see with him is that I haven't seen enough data or enough playing time between him and McCarthy to see what kind of connection they're going to have. And I don't really know how McCarthy's going to really play, because personally, I feel like he's coming to play because he has to. You have Wentz last week who had a season-ending injury, and suddenly McCarthy's being pushed in. So is he injured? Is he not? I don't know. And I have a hard time, wanting to put him in the lineup, not knowing how the quarterback's going to play, number one. But there's this chance, right, if Detroit kind of runs away with it, that he might get some garbage time yardage and touchdowns, because I feel like they're probably going to keep McCarthy in to kind of get him into a rhythm for the next game if they're down by a lot of points.
I think that, you can make the case that McCarthy's had one good quarter this season of good play. And I think he's good enough to keep Jefferson afloat as being a significant top 10 receiver this week, maybe top 5. The Addison thing, I think it comes down, like with these secondary receivers, with these young quarterbacks or backup quarterbacks, the question I always had, or the thing I always come back to is, are they going to score a touchdown, right? Like if they score a touchdown, then yes, I will break ties in favor of that guy. If they're not going to score, I have misgivings about it. The great thing about Addison is this dude lives in the end zone, right? I mean, over the course of his first 3 years in the league, he is one of the top receivers of all time with end zone targets. Now, not all that's been with McCarthy. In fact, most of it has not been with McCarthy. But for whatever reason, when they get into the red zone and they're scoring touchdowns, Addison always seems to be a target there. So I think I'm going to play him as a flex this week. In several of my leagues. He might be on the bench in some of them as well. To your point, Ali, if this Lions-Vikings game goes the way we think it's going to, with the Lions running away from it, there should be some garbage time for Addison in the fourth quarter too, which could help out. That still counts in fantasy, right?
Sure does.
The Commanders have just had a season to forget so far, at least for the first half of the year. Jaden Daniels has been out not once but twice. Terry McLaurin has not only been out once but twice, as he is going to miss this week's game with a re-aggravation of that quad injury. It's not a good matchup for Washington against Seattle, probably more so with the rushing defense. Seattle's one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, but they have a pretty good pass defense as well. No Terry McLaurin, bad matchup. How strong of a play do you think Zach Ertz is in tight end premium leagues like the FFPC?
I mean, it depends what options you have out there, right? But I think he's a good, solid play this week. Again, I look at the over-under in this game. It's at 49 or 50. So they're expecting a shootout. And frankly, Ertz, I feel like, gets the bulk of the passes when McLaurin's out in the past. I mean, he's done good, or if Devo was out for that matter. So I think he does well. And I think one thing about Seattle, is that they play the second most two-man defense. And I believe Ertz does very well against a two-man defense. And I think he actually got more targets than even Devo. So I think he's going to have a really solid floor, and I think he'll get plenty of targets this week with an injured Washington team.
I love it when Zach Ertz does well. He is he's one of my favorites. Was he one of the tight ends that you got late?
Yep, he is one of the tight ends.
Oh, good job.
Him and Heather Henry.
You also, Attorney Ali, during this deposition, testified earlier that you had waited on quarterback. Was Kyler Murray one of those quarterbacks? And if he was, do you have the guile to put him in your lineup this weekend?
If he plays too, we don't know if he's going to play. That's the other thing. It's a Monday night game, and I don't know. I don't know which way I'm leaning on this one here.
I agree with you. That's the problem. It's a Monday night football game, and you better have the backup as on your roster if you're going to take that chance, or else you're going to end up with 0 points. So if
That's
I
my
have,
question. I wanted to know if he was on your.
he is. I do have him on several teams.
On several teams, and you're still managing 4 teams in the top 100.
Yes, sir.
Everybody can have one swing and a miss.
That's right.
What's interesting about this is you can't take a 0 quarterback. You got to have another option. Now, they're playing the Dallas Cowboys. Prescott's not available. Okay, so you're either getting Brissett or you got to go with somebody else. There's not a second Monday night game this week. And what's frustrating about this, Ali, is I think whoever plays at quarterback against the Cowboys on Monday night is going to be great this week. Whether it's Kyler Murray, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, I think they're a top 10. They're an easy top 10 play in fantasy. We just don't know who it is. And again, we have 4 teams on bye this week. Injuries, guys like Travis Hunter, DeAndre Swift are now not going to be playing like we thought they might be playing. If you have the roster spot, great. If you don't, this gets highly problematic.
I agree.
I think that when you look at potential replacements that you could get, as far as taking this down to the wire as much as you can. Sunday night, Sam Darnold plays. Maybe Darnold's out there. Maybe. I don't know. But maybe you get some more information by then. I don't know how much more information you're going to get with the late games on Sunday. Certainly, I don't think you want to be messing around with Tyler Shook, but that's how you think how lucrative this Cardinals quarterback start is going to be on Monday night. Let's get to some listener emails here that I have for you, Ali. We have Greg in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Hey, Ali, how bullish are you on starting Jacoby Myers against Jacksonville this week? Thank you for the email, Greg in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So Myers did not play last week because the Raiders were on bye. He did not play the week before, and we don't know if that was like a leg injury. There could have been, there was talks. There still is talks of this guy being moved at the trade deadline here. But he gets this Jacksonville defense that, granted is not the worst defense in the world. In fact, I'm playing them in a couple of leagues this week in KFFSC as my starting defense. I think you can make a case that Jacoby Myers could be a flex for you this week. I'm still trying to look elsewhere, though. Ali, how do you feel about Myers against the Jags?
Listen, I personally love the Raiders, so I love a lot of their players, and I watch all of them every week. And, there you go.
Got it right here, Ali.
Raiders.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
But it's been disappointing with Myers. I mean, he's had a terrible season. They haven't thrown the ball to him as much as I thought they would. And this week, if the tight end's returning, Backer's returning, then I anticipate that they're going to utilize him mostly as a focus of the offense. And I just don't know if they're going to utilize Myers as much as I hoped. Because last year, if you recall, when they were down, they were utilizing Myers every week significantly. And so I'm not very confident in him this week. And I've pretty much put him on my bench in most of my leagues, unless it's kind of a must-start type situation, because I think he's going to have a trouble time this week.
The body is willing for this player. The mind doesn't seem to be. And perhaps they had a kumbaya moment during the bye week and all is well now. We'll just have to see. But I would like to afford the luxury of seeing it before I run him back out there.
Yeah, I think that's the way I am too. If I have to this week, I'll play him as a as a flex. I certainly hope you have better options at wide receiver, at least than I do. But I don't want to do it with Jacoby. I don't want to pull the trigger on Jacoby Myers this week. We had, let's see, was this Race? I think it was Ray C in the chat.
Ray C, yeah.
Ray C. Here we go. So we're going to do this way here. Ray wants to know, can't decide Bam or Kyle Monangai this week. And I'm going to roll this email in here with it because it's also a Cardinals question. God, this has turned into the high-stakes Cardinals fantasy football hour this week. Michael Carter or Bam Knight on Monday night. Thanks, Ali. That's Jim in Peoria, Illinois. So let's do Ray's question first here. Well, actually, no. I think it's easier if we do Jim's question here. Michael Carter or Bam Knight. Carter was cut on, it's the Solomon Grundy thing. cut on Monday, waived or placed on waiver, not claimed on waivers on Tuesday, re-signed on Wednesday, practice squad on Thursday. He's gone through the gamut this week. And I can't remember. I think this is Alfredo Brown and Dave Kluge from Football Guys were talking about this. And Alfredo was just like, how bad does that feel if you're Michael Carter, where the Cardinals come up and tell you, like, look, we got to cut you because we need the roster flexibility. We know no one else is going to pick you up. And then we're going to resign the squad later in the week, which is exactly what happened. And shockingly enough, and I'll bring this up here too, and I'm not vamping. I want to get all aspects of this situation out there, so we can talk intelligently about this. Michael Carter, I grabbed the wrong one. Hang on, I'm sorry, guys. I believe he was playing with the first teamers in practice this week. If I can find it here, I think I got it now. Okay, here's what it is. Theo Mackey, covers the Cardinals for the Arizona Republic, said that Carter was working with the starters yesterday and today. Now, does this matter? Potentially, maybe not, because we know that Bam Knight could work with the backups and get most of the starting action against the Cowboys on Monday night. Stakes are raised here, Ali, because of the defensive matchup is a good one for fantasy. So Carter or Knight this week, if you had to pick one?
I personally would go with Knight. I think he did pretty well last week. They kind of eased him in, and I think he can be a very good running back against a terrible Dallas defense that has given up a lot of yards in the run. So I personally would rather go with Knight this week.
Okay, so you're going with Bam Knight. Now let's raise it up here with Ray. Would you play Bam Knight over Kyle Monangai, knowing DeAndre Swift is out this week against the Bengals? So both really good matchups here.
I'm a big believer. I mean, I think Dallas's defense is just horrendous. And I personally would rather take any player that's going against a Dallas defense that can't stop anybody.
So you would rank, if we ranked all three of these running backs, you would go with Knight, then Monangai, then Carter?
I would.
Okay, there you go. Ferrell, is that how you'd have it as well? Bam Knight first, Kyle Monangai second, and then Michael Carter third for this week?
I'm going Monangai first, Bam second. And then I'm just thinking that I would have insisted that the player not sign the practice squad until after Thursday. That way he would get paid for a full week. And that way it'd be more apt for the Cardinals to utilize him and one less roster move. But that's just me. But that's where I went with that, which doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do with fantasy football. But you're right. I like players with a chip on their shoulder. So you take the aspect of Michael Carter, who's a player I admire, and if he's put on that field, watch out, because he flashed some moments when he was with the Jets. He's a competent ball player. I like him.
One more question coming in on YouTube right now. This is from Zaza 18410. Start Travion Henderson or Tyrone Tracy this week, Ali? This is an interesting one. We have another Travion Henderson question coming up later, but I'll bring this up now. Ramondre Stevenson already ruled out this week. So despite anything Ramondre Stevenson can do, Mike Vrabel cannot give him the football this week. He can't. He is out this week. And I'm sure Vrabel had a big problem with that. So we know Stevenson is out. We know Antonio Gibson's out for the year. Obviously, this is a good runway for Travion Henderson to have a big game to be showcased. Terrell Jennings is going to factor in this apparently as well. They are 5.5-point favorites at home against Atlanta. So this sets up like a good game script for Henderson. Obviously, Tyrone Tracy is going to be the biggest beneficiary of Cam Scadaboo out for the year. Total in that game is fairly high, 48.5. If you can only play one here, let's help out Zaza. Who are you playing? Is it Tyrone Tracy at home against the Niners, or is it Travion Henderson at home against Atlanta?
For me, it's Tracy. I think that he's going against a Niners defense that has been struggling. And what I like about Tracy is he's really versatile. So he can catch the ball, he can run the ball, and you get a lot of fantasy points off his catches. And I know Henderson can do that too, but I haven't seen the same type of production as when Tracy was when he was the starting running back. So for me, given the fact they're going against the Niners, the over-under is high, I personally would go with Tracy.
He likes Tracy. I think I'm leaning in that direction as well. Perhaps because I've been burned so much on Henderson this year, Ferrell. But where would you go between Tracy and Henderson?
Well, we said last week, if Henderson's going to do it, when's he going to do it? This is probably his best chance to do it. People that drafted him spent draft capital for him. Tracy has his followers too. I think he's a good explosive ball player. The Singletary aspect comes into effect there a little bit with him catching balls out of that backfield. But I think I'm going Tracy too. But this one's kind of a toss up for me.
You know, we have a couple of we have one more toss up question. It's a two-parter, Ferrell, and I'm going to let you handle it. Asking Ali.
Yeah, matter of fact,
we've already had some requests in the chat room for Ali.
It's Balky. This is the toughest question of the night. Now people want us to get to it. This is the thing they got to know, and so here it is. Ali, you've got to give us a player that you have been counting on, or other fantasy team owners have been counting on, week in and week out, that is going to struggle this week. You have to look into your crystal ball and tell us that guy who's not going to deliver as much as you wanted him to, and then you have to come with a sleeper. And it can't be somebody we've already talked about. And it can be, there's a lot of players that we're counting on that haven't done it to do it this weekend. But you've got to go deep in that sleeper group and try to find that guy. That's the two questions. That's what we're challenging you with today.
All right. Well, for me, the first part of the question is a no-brainer. Alvin Kamara. I mean, we all thought he was going to be, a difference maker, right, to win the championship this year, and he's struggled mightily. So you got a couple things in this game. They're going against the Rams. The Rams have a great defense. And number two, they're 14.5-point favorites. Mm-hmm. So do I think they're going to keep Kamara up once they're getting blown out? I don't see that. They have that backup rookie running back who's healthy now, and Kamara's having some injury issues. Why don't you let that young guy kind of get some reps, especially if you're going to be down a lot of points? And so I don't see him having a very good game. And then on top of that, you got a Saints team who's starting a rookie quarterback. I forgot his name, but
Tyler Shough.
Tyler Shough, yeah. And so
even if you remember it, you likely won't pronounce it correctly.
Exactly. So I think the Saints are going to have a really tough problem this year and this week. And I don't see Kamara having a very good game. I'm sitting him in most of my leagues.
I'm going to piggyback on this and bring a couple other points that I was thinking about with this Kamara thing. So he got outsnapped on passing downs last week by Devin Neal. This is a rookie who missed a good chunk of the season that is playing ahead of Kamara. This wasn't like garbage time or anything like that. We saw like first half of the first quarter, Devin Neal is out there catching passes and Alvin Kamara is not even on the field. That's number one. Number two, you mentioned the quarterback change. Spencer Rattler was the quarterback that was in there for the entire season up until when he got benched last week. Rattler would rather chew off his throwing arm than check it down to a running back, at least from what I've seen. So then you think, okay, new quarterback, Tyler Shough, maybe he checks it down. The thing is, Tyler Shough, and I got to look this up on the internet, I think he's 8.5 feet tall. He can take 3 steps and get you 2 yards when he scrambles. I don't think he's going to be checking it down to Kamara, and he may just have we may just continue seeing more Devin Neal on passing downs. Long TLDR here, this is all bad news for Alvin Kamara. I think in a couple of leagues I'm still flexing him out, reluctantly, but I think Ali, I think that's a great call. We may see Alvin Kamara riding off into that gorgeous New Orleans sunset later on this season, because I just don't see it turning around for him anytime soon.
I agree. And the second part of your question is a sleeper. This is kind of a long shot, but I like Jennings from the Niners this week. for several reasons. Number one, last week was the first week where he kind of led the team in targets, I believe. So he's coming in. He's been injured. I feel like he's back to his health at this point. You might have their quarterback back this week, right, as well, Purdy. So that might help the situation. And then you're going against a Giants defense, right, which is, questionable in certain degrees. And I think that one thing about the Giants is they like to blitz. And they have some good rushers. I'll give them that. And so I think the Niners are going to try to keep that defense on their heels and try to go deep. And I think that's going to benefit Jennings out of anyone else.
The obviously you have McCaffrey, you have Kittle. They're going to eat this week. They do every week. Pearsall is nowhere to be found. I still think Kendrick Bourne is he's one of these. You know what Kendrick Bourne is like? Mm-hmm. He's like that friend that we all have, the flaky friend, right? Where when he shows up and he says he'll be there and he shows up, yeah, it's pretty good. But then there's these times where he's like, yeah, I'll be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then he doesn't show up and he leaves you with a 1 for 15 line or a 2 for 10 line. And that's not all Bourne's fault. Some of that is matchup. Some of that is the quarterback, what have you. But Jennings leading the team in targets last week for a guy who was battling these injuries a few weeks ago. Maybe he's getting healthier, and maybe he does make a play this week in a good matchup in a game total with that. I think he's like 48.5 in that Giants-Niners game right now. So that makes a lot of sense.
So our sleeper is Jennings, even though he was a single-digit draft pick. I'm going to let you get away.
Was he a single digit? I'm going to look that up.
Well, sure he was, Balky. Now, I would have been thrilled if you had come in with Bourne as a sleeper because all the things Balky is saying, I think he couched it in really good terms. But, Bourne has had more targets in this offense than any other receiver on this team this year. And a lot of that's due to attrition of some of the
I think it depends, though, right? Because if Matt Jones plays, I think there's more of a connection with Bourne, right? Because they played previously together. But if you got Purdy playing, I like Jennings a lot better.
I'm going to look this up right now here with
Ali, I think you might be weighing too much in the favor of history. From a noted historian there, I'm crazy about history, but I think you might be laying a little bit too much into that.
I'm with you, Ali, on this. There's a connection here it dates back to the New England days with Jones and Bourne. At least that's the only rational explanation I can think of.
Last time Balky is host and Ali is a very talented guest. Last time the host and the guest in this segment of question ganged up against me, it was on Xavier Leggett, who went out and put up 24 points.
Yep,
so be careful, everyone.
That is true.
That's true.
Let's flip over to the slot position on the other side. If you want to talk about a sleeper, I'm going to come in with one for you that was not drafted in the top 10 rounds and might have been barely drafted at all, Balky, after being a pretty good draft pick. And he's from Kentucky, so I'll be able to come in with this as my sleeper. This is Wan'Dale Robinson. The Niners do a lot of things good on defense, and one thing they don't do is attend to the slot receiver. And Wan'Dale, without, we're talking about these running backs trying to pick up where Scatterboo is left off. I think Wan'Dale could be a big part of the short yardage game, albeit through the air. Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm going to come in with my sleeper as Wan'Dale.
Yeah, I like Robinson. Ali, just to wrap up, did you want to make one more point about Kendrick Bourne? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay, that was it.
He's so damn tired of talking about Kendrick Bourne, Balky. He's never coming back on the show again. He says, I went on the show. All these guys want to talk about was Kendrick Bourne. I went to law school. I got things to do. It's Halloween. It's, and they want to talk about Kendrick
Bourne and the Arizona Cardinals. If you love,
are you going to a Halloween party?
I'm not, actually.
No.
So
it's like that, you ought to be at a party.
He's going on the FFPC YouTube channel right now. Guys, Nick Wagner reported this 6 hours ago, who covers the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan told reporters that Purdy, quote, has a chance to be available on Sunday, but Mac Jones is going to get the start. So basically he's saying that Purdy could be the backup, but he's not going to play unless Jones gets hurt. But that he could be coming back. I mean, this is a good thing. I mean, if he's available in week 9, you got to believe he's probably going to be back in week 10. So we'll see what happens there. That toe injury is just, that's nasty business.
It hurts, man.
You know what hurts? not having 5 teams in the top 100 in the Big Gorilla. So Ali, I'm
5
sorry.
teams, not
I'm
4.
sorry.
5.
No, I'm sorry you don't have 5. You got it. You're 4 in the top 100 right now, including the 5th place overall team. Great stuff from you tonight. This was a lot of fun, man. Congratulations on your previous success in the FFPC. Good luck the rest of the way. Hopefully the ball bounces your way and you're cashing that $1 million at the end of the year, dude. We certainly appreciate you making a little time on your Halloween evening to come on our little podcast. Be good. Enjoy week 9, and we'll talk with you again soon.
Hey, appreciate both of you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
That's Ali Yousefi, ladies and gentlemen,
You know,
hanging out on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight. 5th place in the Big Gorilla, as well as 4 teams in the top 100 in the Big Gorilla competition as well. Fantastic.
He's the happiest attorney I've ever met.
There's
Really
plenty of happy attorneys.
No, there's not.
Oh, yes, there is. Yeah. Why are they so depressed?
They're attorneys.
Well, that,
A lot of problems. A lot of problems.
well, maybe. Like divorce attorneys, I get why they might be a little bit depressed, stuff like that.
Well, he practices family law. That's just what it is.
That's true. I got a buddy who is like an.
What would you know about it?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not an attorney, although I did stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Yeah.
But I have a buddy who is a estate attorney, and he's one of the most fun guys to hang out with that I know.
Okay.
But maybe he hides it well.
Maybe I just need some different attorneys to hang out.
You hang out with the sad sack attorneys, Ferrell.
Yeah, that's right. The damn sad sack attorneys. Hey, you know who isn't a sad sack? Stephen G. But he came in with something tonight that I have to differ with. The Fantasy Soprano threw up a note that said that all the Atlanta players are going to underperform this weekend. Not Bijan Robinson, and he's going to do it through the air, Steve. And I know he's not coming out of your lineup anyway, but you're going to be thrilled with what he does catching the ball. I haven't seen a team that's got a pretty darn good defense in New England. I haven't seen a team that has linebackers that can't cover like this. I don't know if they drop them. I don't even know where they are on the field, but it's going to be a beautiful thing once he gets past that first line of defense for the Patriots.
You say Bijan Robinson, and I say the steel curtain south of the Miami Dolphins when Bijan Robinson went against them last week. 9 carries, 25 yards, 3 catches, 23 yards.
He was sleeping.
Well,
let other fellas take care of that.
He's got a tough game against New England this week. So
yeah, he does, but he's gonna be fantastic.
All right,
no prediction.
I will say to Steve's point, Drake London's good to go. Michael Penix is good to go. I think they're playing hurt, clearly. And Tyler Algier, he got removed from the injury report today, so that's a good thing. Darnell Mooney seems to be like the only semi-healthy guy there, and I don't even know how healthy he is. So there is a world that exists where they all crap out this week, as Steve so eloquently put it. But that would.
Well, I never disagree with Steve G. Maybe he could bring me around.
No, I never have. And I do feel bad. And I'm going to bring this up right now because Steve's too polite to. Do you remember in preseason and Steve was talking about how I turned him on to Trevion Henderson and he started drafting him in a bunch of spots? Oh, that was one of my worst calls of the year. So, Steve, I apologize on that.
You have to be responsible. I begged people not to draft Colston
Loveland. Yep.
We tried, and it just, boy, that was shot us down.
Well, let's do this, Ferrell. Let's go to the emails and bring up Colston Loveland here because we got Ed in Clinton, Oklahoma, saying, "What's up, guys? If Cole Kmet plays on Sunday, do I start Zach Ertz over Colston Loveland?" Thank you. That is Ed in Clinton, Oklahoma. So the latest I have, I'm going to bring this up right now. I should have had this queued up, but I don't. Cole Kmet was on the injury report this week, and now he's off the injury report. So that back issue is not enough for him to be listed on the final injury report. He gets in a full practice today. This is a good matchup. The Bengals have allowed the most fantasy points to tight end per game so far this season. I still like Loveland here, Ferrell. I understand Kmet's probably going to take a little bit away from that. We talked about Zach Ertz earlier. I think I'm going to play Ertz over Loveland, but it's close.
It's not close. Put Ertz in and live for it.
You live for Ertz over Loveland. Okay. Let's go.
Every week.
Every week?
There's no situational love there.
Listen,
Go read his game log, Walkie. It'll make a man cry.
Well, yes, it would, but that was in the past.
Yeah,
And we have the
can
second
see in the future.
I can't, but this is
You
part
can.
of. I can't.
You
I
told
can't.
our guest that 5 teams next week, his 5th team will be in the top 100. You see the future.
I will say that the second half of the season for Loveland, who seems to be coming on, a rookie that's getting more comfortable in the system and is being featured more. I do feel like, and this isn't really going out on a limb at all, but his second half is going to be significantly better than his first half. Maybe it is. Maybe that is going out on a limb, but I really like Loveland. Loveland.
It's the safest commentary you've ever made.
Yes. Yeah.
He could improve from 1 catch to 2.
Yeah. Well, in other bulky takes, he's saying that he thinks water is wet. I don't know about it. It's probably a little bit of a cold take, but yeah, he says water's wet, the sky's blue. I don't know about that guy. Let's go to Paul in Prosper, Texas. Ferrell. No Garrett Wilson, Travis Hunter, AJ Brown, or Emeka Egbuka for me this week. Do I start Kayshawn Booty or Shamir DK? That is Paul in Prosper, Texas. So Booty has gotten 3 touchdowns on the year, 4 touchdowns. It seems like he's scoring a touchdown every single week. But then you had a guy like Shamir DK who really came on last week. You know, we were talking about whether Alec Iamaner was going to be the new number 1 receiver over Calvin Ridley, right? And now it seems like we need to be having a conversation whether Shamir DK is going to be the number 1 receiver for the Tennessee Titans going forward. You look at what he did last week. It was his best game as a pro. He followed up against New England week 7, 4 catches, 70 yards and a touchdown. He goes to Indianapolis this past week, sees double the targets. He gets 7 catches, 93 yards. He doesn't get in the end zone, but still 16.3. You love it. Technically 16.4 because he had a rushing yard as well. DK versus Booty here. If you told me Booty gets a touchdown, I would say Booty, but you can't tell me that, which is why I think I lean towards DK here.
And, you know, I'm going to go with what I know. We had Permar on the show last week. He seems to be absent for Halloween, which I would expect that. But he made a statement like he makes a lot of off-the-wall statements, and he said that Drake May is the best quarterback in the NFL. Well, he went out and played as amongst some of the best fantasy scoring quarterbacks last week. And, you know, I think for that reason alone, I'm going to stick with Boutte. But you make a really good case for the young receivers in Tennessee. And I hope to see, and I expect to see some players emerge from that we can look at drafting next year.
The fun thing about Booty is, you know, Drake May played like garbage, like that first quarter last week. And then you look at his final stat line, he turned it on like that. Super hyper efficient passing attack, ends up with, you know, the better part of 300 yards or whatever it was, 3 touchdowns he throws in that game too. So that's the great thing about May is he can turn it on, and Booty usually has been a beneficiary of when Drake May turns it on. Speaking of quarterbacks here, let's get into this one. Ted in Boardman, Ohio has a fun one. Dear Balky and Ferrell, should I bench Jaden Daniels in favor of Jared Goff this week? Now, thank you for the email, Ted. We appreciate it. Far be it from me to say, hey, Jaden Daniels, you can't play him this week. But man, do I love starting Jared Goff at home. That guy is just
what you do
when he's at home. I lean towards it. It's really difficult for me to play Daniels in a bad matchup this week. I think I'm going to play Goff over Daniels. That may be sacrilege here, but I think that's where the fantasy goodness is this week. No McLaurin for Daniels. Goff has a full complement of weapons. Give me Goff.
When Goff is at home, with the exception of Lamar Jackson, you always play Goff.
With the exception of Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, you play Lamar Jackson.
Over Goff. Okay, I get it. I get you.
That's the only exception. When Goff is at home. When Goff is on the road, he's a rather ordinary fantasy quarterback. When he's home, he's the king of the passing lane.
Yeah, and that we already talked about that too with Ali Yousefi, that totals like 48.5, 49, something like that. Going to be a lot of points scored in that game. Final one we have tonight, and we ventured down the Trevion Henderson path. We've somehow gone full circle and found ourselves on the Trevion Henderson path once again. For our final email of the night, we go out to Garden City, New York. Would you bite the bullet and start Trevion Henderson over rolling the dice with Brashard Smith? That is a double cliche email, and I appreciate it. He also says, I appreciate you both. That is Rick in Garden City, New York. Thank you, Rick. Ferrell, this is a loaded question, man. I mean, Henderson, it seems like it's all shaping up to be a Henderson week, but we said this before. And then the flip side, you go to Kansas City, and I think it was it Tom Smith that was asking me earlier about Kareem Hunt. I love Kareem Hunt this week. I'm playing Kareem Hunt this week for sure. But when it comes down to Brashard Smith, I think he's an interesting flex.
Mm-hmm.
Is he interesting enough to start over Trevion Henderson? I love the volume, so I'm going to say no, but it's close. I'm going to play Henderson over Smith this week.
I'm going to play Henderson over Smith. I'm going to play Kareem Hunt over both of them.
I'm going to play Kareem Hunt number one. Obviously, Rick doesn't have him, or he's already got him in his lineup. I don't know. But I would play Kareem Hunt over both of them. And then if it comes down to Henderson or Smith, I play Henderson over Brashard.
Well,
Smith.
yeah, easy. I think that's easy.
It's not easy.
I think that's easy. I think, because I think if you're asking that question, you need to go to myffpc.com and peruse the schedule of events for 2026, because it means you need to play more teams. That's exactly what that means.
I'm ready to be heard again by Trevion Henderson this week. So just it
appears that the guys in the comments in the chat room do believe that the Trevion Henderson's problem is not Trevion, but it's the head coach. They believe that Vrabel has got something to do with his lack of productivity.
I'm sure that's part of it. I'm sure McDaniels is part of it. I'm sure Henderson is part of it too. It's like, in honor of Halloween, it's the witch's brew, right? Where they're putting in eye of newt and leg of toad, and they're throwing it all in. And it's Josh McDaniels hates rookies, and Mike Vrabel doesn't trust, running backs that fumble, and you mix it all up. And when you mix it all up, you get this concoction that when you drink it, you never see Trevion Henderson playing meaningful football in fantasy in 2025. That's what we're at right now. It's not fun. But hopefully this show was fun tonight. I feel like we did a solid job. Ali Yousefi, once again, raising the bar, clearing up the standard for everybody, what they expect on this show. And we just kind of hung out and watched it all burn, which was great.
This is week 10 of the season.
This is week 9, coming up on
week 9 of the season, Balky. You are on a 9-week winning streak. Since the season has started, you have done nothing but book some of the greatest guests, a line of the greatest guests that we've ever had.
Maybe that's what we should do on this show as we close it out at our 141 game winning streak continues. Our 547th game, our 547th win in a row on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, something like that. Because we love all our guests, and the guests lately have just been absolute fire. It's been fantastic, and we hope you enjoyed it.
I have a friend in the art world, Balky, that lives in London, and he sent me a text after last week's show, or an email, and he said in his own native slang, he said, "Great bloody show." And so I thought that was good,
Yeah, I like getting the British vulgarity in there, but that he liked it. So that's obviously a good thing. KFFSC.com is Ferrell's baby. Check it out. KFFSC.com. Ferrell, we will do this show again live 10 p.m. next Friday. Enjoy week 9, my friend. We will talk with you again soon.
See you soon, brother.
You got it. That's Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. And that will complete tonight's proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Ali Yousefi. I want to thank Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you for hanging out and watching. We will be back, like I said, next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern time. In case you missed the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown this past Tuesday, you can watch it anywhere you get podcasts, listen to it anywhere you get podcasts. We had 25-time FFPC league champ John Pierce. And what was great about that, having John Pierce on, this dude not only plays in a lot of the 3K, 5K, and 10K leagues that we have with the FFPC. He's won a significant amount of them over the years. Great to hear him compare those leagues to the main event, to the Big Gorilla, and sort of what he's looking for. So make sure you check that out in case you missed it. And then next week, another one of my favorite guests, Week 8 Big Gorilla top 10 team owner Kurt Kikas will be joining me 10 p.m. on Tuesday night. I'm actually in a private dynasty league with Kurt as well, so I'm sure we'll get into that. That'll be fun. On the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, 10 p.m. Tuesday night on the FFPC YouTube channel. In case you missed last night's FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network or the FFPC socials, had a great time chatting with RotoViz's Kevin Safraniak, the Cat Dad FF on X. He's doing a lot of great stuff with RotoViz this year. Broke down a lot of the great matchups, tough matchups that we're looking at for Week 9. So check that out in case you missed it. And then we'll be back with FFPC Royalty next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. FTN and Player Profiler's own Nelson Sousa, the 2016 FFPC Main Event co-champion, will be my guest for the full 2 hours as we hang out for, is it Raiders Broncos, I want to say, next Thursday night? I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on what Thursday night football it is. But fantasy football night in America is always more fun when you're watching Insider Access on the Better Sports Network. FFPC Weekly Challenge is live. No draft, no salary cap. Just pick 10 players or 12 players. If you like playing with kickers and defenses, you can do that. Win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100 team contests. Only one player per NFL team. Check that out right now, myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. For Ferrell Elliott, for Oinker, my name is Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour here on the FFPC YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, everybody. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Let it be known that Balky is a man of the people. I just noticed this right now. And yeah, Fighting Solves Everything on YouTube has a question here, and I'm going to answer this for you right now. Fighting Solves Everything. Justin Herbert, Jordan Love at quarterback, McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Quinshon Judkins, Woody Marks, David Montgomery, Travion Henderson, Brian Robinson Jr. at running back, Puka Nacua, Teteroa McMillan, Cortland Sutton, T. Higgins at receiver, Tyler Warren, and Brock Bowers at tight end. It's a 2-2-2 flex. Drop Brian Robinson Jr. for Jamison Williams or Tyjae Spears, or keep my handcuff. I would say if you are playing in the Big Gorilla or the main event, I can endorse cutting Brian Robinson for Spears or Jamison Williams. If you are in a closed 12-team league, I still like hanging on to that handcuff as well. And you could probably make a strong case that even if you are in the Big Gorilla or the main event, you could probably keep Robinson as well. But my personal thoughts are if you do want to cut Robinson for Williams or Spears, might set you up for a potential big-time showing in the money weeks in the championship sprint in both contests. So that's where I'll leave it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be back with 3 awesome shows on the FFPC family of podcasts next week. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk with you then.